everybody, welcome back to Paperbacks and Lattes. I am Paige, and today I will be talking about the books I read in April. So for April, I read 28 books, and I had 20 5-star reads, 5 4-star reads, and 3 3-star reads. And I DNF'd 3 books. The first one is R.I.P. by Charity B, Elements of Mischief by Tate James, and Thoughtless by S.C. Stevens. The first one, R.I.P., was just too dark. R.I.P. was just very dark, very taboo book, and it was just a little bit too much for me. I'm usually pretty good with dark and taboo, but this one was just really pushed the limits, and I just decided to go ahead and DNF it. And then I started reading Elements of Mischief by Tate James. This is a reverse harem series, and I just wasn't getting into it. It was not what I was really wanting to read, so I DNF'd it. I may pick it back up at a later time when I'm in the mood to read it, but for now I chose not to read it. And then I was reading Thoughtless by S.C. Stevens. I got 30% into the book and I decided to DNF it. It's about a love triangle, and I usually like love triangles, but this one was just irritating. The heroine was just irritating. She was very flighty, and I just did not like her, and I didn't like what the choices she was making. And the book is super, super long, and I just did not want to read that long of a book when it was irritating me so much. So I just decided to DNF it. I may pick it back up at a later time, but I doubt it, because I really don't enjoy reading books that are irritating or just what I don't like. I'd rather read books that I like and not waste my time. So let's get on to the books that I did read for April. The first book I read is Veronica's Dragon by Ruby Dixon. It is number 2 in the Ice Home series. This is the spin-off of the Ice Planet Barbarian series. This is about a girl named Veronica who wakes up on a ice planet, and she was kidnapped from Earth by aliens, and she resonates to a dragon shifter, and it is their love story, and it was very good. I rated it 5 stars. Then the next book I read is Willis Beast. It is number 3 in the Ice Home series. This is about Willa. She is also another human girl who wakes up on this ice planet when she was kidnapped from Earth by aliens. And she is immediately taken with this other alien. He was an alien that they had for fighting in the arenas. And he is an alien that they made, that they took from several different species of aliens and kind of made this particular one. His name is Gren, and he's kind of a monster, and nobody trusts him. He's very angry because he doesn't trust anybody. He's always lived a life imprisoned, and so he doesn't trust them, so they don't trust him because he's trying to fight back, and so they keep him chained up. And Willa is just gravitating towards him because she feels so sorry that he is not being treated like everybody else. And so she helps him escape, and she escapes with him, and it is the story of them falling in love, and it was really good. I really liked it, and I rated it 5 stars. Then I read All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. I love all of Colleen Hoover's books, and I knew I would love this one as well. This book starts off with the hero and the heroine discovering their girlfriend and boyfriend cheating on them with each other. So they meet up at the apartment where her boyfriend lives, and they just kind of sit outside of the door while their partners are getting it on inside. So they form up a little friendship over the bond that they're sharing, and it is just it's an unfortunate situation, but it also starts out kind of cute. And then they go their separate ways. He does leave her his phone number, but she doesn't call him back. They meet again at a restaurant where she's on a date, and he just kind of takes over the date because he really likes her. And so their relationship forms from there, and then we're seeing a dual timeline of of when they're meeting and falling in love, and then when they're married. So we get a dual timeline, and the dual timeline of them being married is that their marriage is falling apart and they're trying to save it, and all the hardships that they've endured while being married. And it is a really good book. I love books that show a married couple trying to fight for their marriage. It's very inspiring to me, and I rated this 5 stars. Then I read Southern Storms by Brittany C. Cherry. I love Brittany C. Cherry's books. They're very hard-hitting and emotional books, but they are fantastic. This is about a girl who is married, and she is just treated horribly by her husband because they have just gone through a horrible time, and he doesn't treat her well at all, and so he basically abandons her to file for divorce. And so her sister and her sister's husband, they flip houses, and so they let her live in one of the houses that they have just renovated, and she just starts to begin a new life for herself. Then she meets the town's black sheep. Everybody doesn't like him because his father has always been horrible, and he just portrays himself to be kind of grumpy and brooding as well. So they form a friendship, and then they also realize that they knew each other when they were children. So it is a very good book, very emotional, and I rated it 5 stars. Then I read Barbarian Seduction by Ruby Dixon. This is number 17 in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. This is the last book in the series as of now. I think the next one comes out this month in May. I think I have to double check, but for now this is the last book in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. I didn't love this one quite as much because I just didn't relate to the characters. It was just an okay story for me. This is about Maureen. She is a French girl who was kidnapped from Earth with the original girls from Earth, and then they crash landed on the ice planet. And then it just shows her backstory of how she resonated to an alien that's her mate, and then their story. And it was just an okay story. It was just kind of pretty much a filler story just to show what she went through. And it just wasn't as good as most of the other books, so I rated it 3 stars. Then I read A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kimmerer. I love this book. This is a Beauty and the Beast reimagining, retelling, and I love that. This is about a girl who is kidnapped from Earth. She sees somebody being kidnapped in a dark alleyway, and so she tries to save the person who's being kidnapped, and so she is kidnapped in the place of the other person that she was trying to save. She is taken to this alternate land, and she is living in this castle with this prince who is cursed, and she is their last hope, and she doesn't really know this at first, and she really is she's trying to get back to Earth, to her home, because her brother and her mom is dying of cancer, and she and her brother are trying to pay off the creditors that their dad left them in debt. And so she's trying to get back to help her brother and her mom, but she also starts having feelings for the prince and caring for the people in his country, and just really trying to help them out as well. And I really enjoyed this book. I can't wait to read the next one in the series, and I rated it 5 stars. Then I read The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. This book is about a girl and a guy. Her twin sister and his brother are getting married. Everybody at the wedding got sick except for the bride's sister and the groom's brother, because she is allergic to shellfish and he doesn't like shellfish, so they had actually eaten two other things, whereas the whole wedding party and all the wedding guests ate from the seafood buffet. So everybody was sick, and the bride had won a non-refundable honeymoon trip to Hawaii, and so she sent them on their trip instead so it wouldn't go to waste. And they have been enemies ever since they've known each other, and they go and they're like, well, we'll just stay away from each other. But when they're there, they share the same room, they go to the same activities, then they have to pretend to date and pretend to be married because they run into certain people there. And it's just a very cute story of how they fall in love, and I really enjoyed it and rated it 5 stars. Then I read Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, another Colleen Hoover book, and I love this one as well. This is about a girl who moves in temporarily with her brother. He is a pilot, and when the first day when she arrives, there is a drunk guy at the apartment door where she can't get in. So she calls her brother, and he said, okay, well, I'll get my friend to help you. He lives right across the hall. Well, it ended up being his friend, so she had to help him get into the apartment and whatnot because he was very distraught and just was in a very emotional state, and that was why he got drunk. And then he is very closed off, and she doesn't know what happened to him, although they begin to have feelings for each other, and they form up an agreement, kind of a friends with benefits agreement. But he knows that he can't have anything more with her because of something that's happened in his past, and she has to figure out what happened, and they have to try to get around that. And it's just very emotional story and very good, and I rated it 5 stars. Then I read Rebellion by Sehobin Davis. This is the number 2 book in the Sainthood. It's the Sainthood Boys of Lowell series. This book just came out in April, and the 3rd one should come out this summer. I can't wait for it because this left on a cliffhanger. This follows the first book of where a girl, she is dating a member of a local gang, and then she realizes he's cheating on her, so to get back with him, she goes to the competition, another gang in the area, and she has a hot night with all 4 of the guys. This is a reverse harem series, and then her hot night with them is filmed and released to their school, and so everybody sees her compromising situation, and so she kind of hates them for doing that to her. But through the first book, it shows her hating the boys and then them hating her because they are on opposite sides. Her dad was killed by this gang, and it just shows her trying to fight off their attention. And then they move into her house because the ringleader Saint, his dad, is engaged to her mom. And so they have to spend more time together, and she comes to trust them. And then the first book leaves off in a cliffhanger where one of them betrays her, and then the second one is her trying to get back at them for betraying her, because now she doesn't trust them at all, but they love her except for the one of them betrayed her, but he didn't realize, he thought that she had betrayed them, so it was a misunderstanding. And then the second book is all about them trying to protect her from the gang and just trying to win back her trust. And then this left off at a cliffhanger where her car blew up and she was at her car, so we don't know if she made it out. Of course, I'm sure she made it out since there's a 3rd book, but it leads off on a cliffhanger, and I can't wait for the 3rd book. And I rated this one 5 stars. Then I read the Bromance Book Club by Alyssa K. Adams. This is the first book in the series, and I enjoyed it. This is about a girl and a guy. He is a baseball player in the major leagues, and their marriage is on the rocks. He told him to leave, and he did. And so he has left her and their girls, and then he realizes that he shouldn't have left, and then he tries to come back, but she doesn't want him to come back. She wants to file for divorce. And so his teammates have formed a book club, a romance book club, to help them navigate relationships with women. So to help them become better husbands, better boyfriends, things like that. So they take him into their romance book club and try to help teach him how to become a better husband and try to win back his wife. And it was very cute. The only thing I didn't like about this book is the wife's sister, because she lives with her after they separate, and she is not nice at all. She just keeps harping on her sister for even just talking to her husband, trying to she does not want her to go back to him, and it is very, very irritating because he's trying to do the right thing and he's trying to get win his family back. It's very obvious that he cares for her and their daughters, and the sister is just so annoying. She's in the way, just constantly just trying to break them apart, and it is very irritating. I did not like her at all. And the second book I know is centered around her relationship, her romance with someone, and I just don't know if I can read it. Well, I don't know if I'm going to read the second book since the sister irritated me so much. But that was the only thing about this book that brought it down to a 4-star. It would have been a 5-star read if the sister hadn't have been so annoying and irritating. Then I read Banged by Brill Harper. This is a shorter book, and this is about he's either a police officer or in the military. I can't remember. It was one of those, and he was on like a special team that diffused bombs. He was in a situation where a bomb exploded and his partner was killed, and so he is just taking that very personally. He has left the force and just is having a hard time of it because he just carries the guilt of his friend and partner dying. And he moves into this apartment and he meets his neighbor, who is a pregnant girl. She works as a waitress and she is just alone. Her mom has just pretty much just shunned her, and she is just doing her best to get by, and he befriends her and he starts hanging out with her and all that, and then he has feelings for her, she has feelings for him, and it's just a cute little story of them falling in love with each other. I rated it 3 stars. Then the next book I read is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This book was cute. I was listening to this as an audiobook. I don't really do audiobooks because I have kids and I just can't concentrate. It's hard for me to concentrate when my kids are always doing something, or I'm having to clean or tend to them, and I don't have that type of brain that can just concentrate. But I tried on this audiobook, and I listened to most of this book as an audiobook. Got to where I couldn't listen to anymore, and so I read it as an ebook the rest of the way. And I don't know if I rated this book 4 stars because it felt like it dragged on and on and on. It's a cute story about a girl who has fibromyalgia, and so her body is just in pain constantly, and she fights this illness, and she gets into this situation where she's almost ran over by a car, and she realizes that her life is so boring. She has done nothing worthwhile, and so she makes this list of things to do before she dies, so to get a life. And she moves out of her parents' home and gets an apartment of her own, and there she meets Red, who works at the apartments. He does maintenance and all types of things for the tenants, and they form a friendship which leads into more. And I really enjoyed this. This was a cute story. I don't know if it was because the audiobook, and I'm just not used to audiobooks, and it felt like it dragged and dragged and dragged. Like the story was never going to end or what. But I gave this one 4 stars. There was just something about it that was just felt too long. But it was a cute story, and I enjoyed reading it. Read Bittersweet by Serena Bowen. This is the #1 book in the True North series. I've been wanting to read the True North series for a while now, and so I'm glad that I went ahead and started the series. This first story is about Griff. He is the oldest son of this family who owns this apple farm. One day, a girl breaks down in her car near their farm, and then he realizes, oh, this is a girl that he used to know in college. And she works for this restaurant company now, and she is out trying to buy organic foods from local farms to feature in this restaurant's kitchen. And so she is trying to buy apples from his farm, and they just keep reconnecting several times. And of course, each time they're around each other, they start having feelings for each other, and it leads to more, and they try to find a way to be together, and it's really cute. I love his family. I love the whole farm aspect. It's just a really wholesome book, and I rated it 5 stars. Then I read the second book in this True North series. It is Steadfast. This is about Jude, who is one of the workers on the apple farm. He is actually a temporary worker because he was in prison. Then he had to go to rehab. As a teenager in high school, he befriended the wrong kinds of friends that led him down the wrong path. He became a drug user, and it led to a night where he was in the car and they wrecked, and the other person in the car died, and he was charged for the death of the guy who died in the car. And so he was sent to prison, and then after he got out of prison, he went to rehab to try to get off the drugs, and then after rehab, he went to go work at the apple farm. The apple farm is only a temporary job for him, and then eventually he has to go back home, and his home life is not good because his dad doesn't really care. They own a mechanic shop, and he tries to go back to work, but being in the same environment, in the same town, it's really hard on him, and he's constantly fighting the urges of using drugs again. And then he reconnects with his ex-girlfriend, who her brother was the one that died in the car with him the night they wrecked. And so this is their story of how they reconnect, and some truths come out about the wreck. This was a really sweet story of how Jude was trying to overcome the hardships in his life and also finding love again with his girlfriend. And I rated this one 5 stars as well. Then I read the third book in the True North series. This one is Keepsake. This one was my favorite so far. This was about Zach. He is also one of the workers at the apple farm. He had escaped a cult back a few years back, and he has just been living at this apple farm working. He's a hard worker. He does anything for them, and he's just been trying to overcome his years of being in that cult and trying to escape that. And then a girl comes to stay with them, which is one of the daughter's friends, and then they get together. Something terrible has happened to her, and so they form a friendship. He helps her through the heavy dark things she's dealing with, and this is just a really great book. It shows Zach is just such a loving guy. He will do anything for her. He's such a hard worker, and he's just so sweet, and I really like this book, and I gave it 5 stars. Then I read Wrong by Jana Aston. This book was hilarious. This girl she is a college student, and she works at a coffee shop. Every Tuesday, a guy comes in to buy a coffee in the morning, and she has this crush on him. He's really good looking, and she just, every time he comes in, she is there to take his coffee order, and she's just crushing hard on him. He has to go to the gynecologist because she needs birth control. And so she goes into the office, and when she's waiting on the doctor, then he comes in, and it's the guy that she has been crushing on for a while now at the coffee shop. And so this was just hilarious. The scene of her on the table having to get an exam by him was just hilarious. She was just mortified that this was the guy, and now he's her gynecologist. And this story obviously is around them falling in love with each other, and it is just a really great book. It's hilarious, and it is just really fun and a lighthearted read, and I gave it 5 stars. Then I read Stealing Cinderella by A. Zavarelli. This is a Cinderella retelling, reimagining, and this is about a girl who her father died after he had remarried to her stepmom, and she has 2 stepsisters, and they treat her horribly. After he dies, they blame her for his death because he was protecting her when he died. And so she is basically their maid, their cook, their servant, and she lives in the attic, and she gets a chance to go to a ball. She goes because she is trying to get help for this local animal sanctuary who rescues animals, and the animal sanctuary is about to close down because they don't have enough money to stay open. And so she goes to the ball to ask the prince for help to keep this animal sanctuary open. And this ball is centered around all these princes coming from different countries, and it's basically like speed dating situation where the princes have 5 or so minutes with each girl, and then it is a way for them to find somebody to marry. And she thinks she's in line for the prince of her country, but she is actually accidentally gets into a line for another prince from a different country, and he is known as to be very harsh, very brooding, very cold and mysterious, and he instantly takes a liking to her, but she flees, and she one of her shoes comes off, and so then he tries to find her with the shoe, just like Cinderella, and then he does end up finding her, and he drugs her and kidnaps her and takes her to his country and keeps her kind of prisoned in his home. She makes a deal with him for him to save the animal sanctuary if he can have her for 3 months to do whatever he wants with her. And so this is their story of how they fall in love with each other, and it was really great. It was kind of dark at times, but really great, and I enjoyed reading it, and I gave this one 5 stars. Then I read Surviving Amber Springs by Siobhan Davis. I gave this one 3 stars. This one was about a girl. Her twin brother was a school shooter. Then he was also killed by the police on the day that he shot several people at her school. She is having to go through the loss of her brother while everybody else is just torments her and her family. They have to end up leaving town. Her dad loses his job as the doctor, and everything is just chaotic. She gets bullied so bad and so they escape to another town. They change their names, trying to start a new life for themselves, and she ends up being befriended by these 3 guys, and they all like her, and so they make a pact. This is a reverse harem book, and they make a pact about her being their all 3 of their girlfriend, but she's living with this lie because she hasn't told them who she really is and what really happened. And then the truth comes out at the new school she's at, and she gets bullied, and they try to protect her, but she just gets bullied so bad, and it really takes a turn for the worse, and they don't know what's happened to her. And I don't want to give away any more because I don't want to spoil the book, but it was pretty good. Of course, this is about high schoolers, but they were just kind of juvenile at times, and I don't know, it just seemed not as good as the reverse harem book as I have read in the past, so I rated it 3 stars. Then I read Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I absolutely love this book. This is about a girl who comes to this new town to escape and start over, to try to escape what has happened in her life. And so she meets this guy at the town who can't speak. Something has happened to him in his past where his vocal cords are damaged and he cannot speak. He can hear and he can do sign language and things like that, but he's pretty much the outcast and nobody pays him any attention. And so she befriends him, and she knows sign language because her dad was deaf. And so she befriends him, and he just kind of blossoms under her care, and it's just a really good, great love story about this guy and this girl coming together and truly getting to know each other. And he is just very innocent because he's pretty much just been a homebody all of his life, and she really just kind of opens up the world to him, and it's a really great love story, and I rated it 5 stars. Then I read Spirited by C.M. Stunich. This is a reverse harem book. This is a fantasy paranormal book. She is a girl who can speak to ghosts. She also exercises them while she's on a mission to try to get into an academy. She meets this ghost of a boy who had died, and he helps her get an important message back to the queen. This becomes a mission of where something happens to the prince that she is completely in love with, and she has to go on this mission to help to do something. I don't want to say too much because it will ruin the book. And then there's 2 more books I think after this one, and so I don't want to say too much, but it is pretty interesting. It kind of took me a little bit to get into, but it is interesting, and I will continue on in the series. And I rated this one 4 stars. Then I read It Takes Two to Tumble by Cat Sebastian. This is a historical romance. This is an MM romance, and this is about a guy who he is the vicar and of this town, and he is courting this girl to become married to her. The town is just grumbling and complaining about these children who are they're pretty much orphaned, and their mother dies and their father is a captain at sea, and so he's never home, and they're just running amok all over town and causing mischief. And so he becomes pretty much their nanny, and he helps take care of them at the house until the captain, the father, comes home. And then this is a story of them getting to know each other, and this is Sound of the Music vibes, and this is a story of where they get to know each other and then they fall in love with each other. And then I read After the Fall by Gianna Darling. This is number 4 book in the Fallen Men series. I love this series so much. I was excited that this book came out, and I couldn't wait to read it, so I went ahead and read it. And this 4th book follows the couple in the first book, so you definitely need to read the first book to read this book. But this just follows their story, continuing on in their lives. And she opens up her bookstore that she's been wanting to open, and he is a prospect in his dad's motorcycle club. And then things happen. The police are just trying to shut down this motorcycle club. They keep targeting the women of the motorcycle club, and things are just happening. They're trying to be taken down, and then something awful happens, and she is devastated. And I can't say too much without spoiling the book, but this book actually brought me to tears. It was heartbreaking, and but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I gave it 5 stars. Then I read Theirs for the Night by Katie Robert. This was a short novella about a girl who went to this club on her birthday and caught the attention of 2 guys, and they took her to their hotel for the night. And then she realizes that one is a prince and one is the bodyguard of the prince, and he has actually run away from his country because bad things are happening there. This was a good story for a novella, and the story continues on, and I plan on reading further in the series. And I rated this one 4 stars. Then I read Truth or Beard by Penny Reed. This is number 1 book in the Winston Brothers series. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. This is about one of the brothers in the Winston family, and the family is just so adorable. I love all of them. They each have unique characters. All of them are there. There's 7 of them, I think. 6 boys and 1 girl, I believe, if I remember correctly. The heroine of the book has always been had a huge crush on Bo Winston. Bo and Dwayne are actually twin brothers, and nobody can really tell them apart because they're pretty much identical looking. And she's always had a crush on Bo because he's just the lighthearted brother. He laughs and just has a good time, whereas Dwayne is very serious and very broody, and she has always kind of been an enemy to him. They've always played pranks on each other and just gotten on each other's nerves. And then so she comes back to town after she graduates college because she wants to travel the world. But in order to travel the world, she has to save up enough money. So she comes back to her hometown and works as a calculus teacher for a couple of years to try to save up enough money so she can travel the world. And then she has an experience with Bo, who she thinks is Bo, which it actually turns out to be Dwayne. And then she realizes that really her crush on Bo is just not what it seems, and that she learns that she actually has feelings for Dwayne, and their relationship just blossoms. And it was a really good book, and I rated it 5 stars, and I can't wait to read the other brothers' books. The next few books I read are for the Romanceopoly readathon challenge. I made a whole separate video going into those books, so I won't go into them in detail on here. You can go watch my Romanceopoly vlog that I will have linked down below, but I will tell you what I read. The first one I read was Faye's Captive by Lily Archer. I gave it 5 stars. Then the next one is The Gravity of Us by Brittany C. Cherry, and I gave it 5 stars. The next one is Pucked by Helena Hunting, and I gave it 5 stars. And the next one is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and I gave it 5 stars. And then the next books I read through Romanceopoly are actually in May, so those will be in my May wrap-up. So those are all the books I read in April. I know this is a super long video. I am pretty excited that I read 28 books this month, almost a book a day. Which my husband just can't believe that. How can a person read that many books? But I tell him that there's other people that I watch on BookTube that read more books than I do, actually, and he just is just amazed by. He's not a reader, so he just is amazed that somebody could just read that many books. But anyway, I read 28 books this month. Super proud of it, and I read a lot of good books this month. So I hope you guys had a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!